All right, so the last video I talked about a little bit about drawing. This one I'm going to talk a little bit about erasing because that's, I know from experience in teaching that that's an issue with students. So you do something like this, like I did in the last video, and you know, that was a couple minutes ago, and already this is, because it's acrylic, it's completely dry. And so, so then what happens if all of a sudden I want to move something or change the shape or what have you? Like how do I do that? Because like all these dark lines are down and they're dry now. And so so if you can't erase by getting the paint off, which you can, like in the first few moments, you can get the acrylic paint off. Again, with an absorbent surface, it's a little bit more difficult. On an acrylic surface, it's a little bit easier. But if I find that things have sort of dried, and let's say, say I wanted to change this line, or I wanted to change this line here, what I can do is I can just put out some white paint, and I can just go over it and go over that line and get rid of it. Because it's all just, we're going to be painting on top of it anyway. And you don't have to do it really thickly, but just so it covers. So let's see, maybe I want to change the shape over here. So once that's out, I could go back with paint, or if I wanted to go back to charcoal, that's fine too. I could go back and say, okay, well, this line needs to be down here somewhere. So I put that line down here, and the shape is going to take kind of a different turn when it gets down here. So there's this flexibility between, should feel like this flexibility between drawing and painting. You can start with the dry media, go to wet media. Then when you want to correct your drawing, you can do it with the wet media and then go back to the dry media to gain that control again about putting that line exactly where you want. So there's this nice kind of flexibility about the two, about the wet and the dry media. You can use them together. So once I've sort of made the correction, if I've made the correction in charcoal, then I go back to my paint and say, okay, I'm going to come back and sort of establish this line in paint, and I'm kind of back to where I was. All right, so the only thing to keep in mind with this sort of correction idea is it's very easy to, if you're using the same brush for both your dark line and your white sort of erasing color, clean the brush. Make sure that when you put the white down, it's really white. You don't want the colors sort of mixing together, and all of a sudden you've got a bunch of different colors because the white's mixed into, in this case, burnt umber. You want to try to keep them really separate, like pure burnt umber to do the drawing, then make sure that you're putting down a pure white to correct it. So keep the two like really simple and separate.